Imagine you got a new laptop about 1 or 2 years ago, and while you're mostly still happy with it, all the stuff you want or need to do somehow changed. So maybe you are done with your studies. Maybe the new job got a few extra requirements, maybe you picked up some new digital hobbies, or you somehow ended up becoming a creator and got yourself a new camera. Or maybe you simply want to try out the new Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. Simply put, you need more performance. But looking at laptop prices right now, well, even budget or entry-level gaming or creator laptops aren't exactly affordable, and upgrading laptop GPUs isn't something you can do. Or can you, since that's basically what we will talk about today. And while external GPUs have been pretty niche for the past few years, it's still a very interesting concept. And while value, especially in the high-end, is also quite problematic, this little grey box here surprised me quite a bit. This is the so-called Aorus RTX 5060 Ti AI box, and behind that pretty technical product name hides a proper, full-on desktop GPU in an external Thunderbolt enclosure. And for a price that I think is actually quite alright and is way below what you will have to pay for a current-gen entry-level gaming laptop like the Log 15 we recently reviewed, you get quite the upgrade for the laptop you already own. No matter if it's for gaming, creator applications or any AI shenanigans you want to try out locally. Of course, there are a few things to be aware of, but once you understand what this thing can and can't do, well, you should definitely keep an eye on this one. Full transparency, I did start my testing with two of Gigabyte's very own laptops, the Aero X16 betting on a USB-C 4 connection and the Elite 16 directly via Thunderbolt 5. And, well, the overall setup didn't quite make sense, since even while the AI box utilizes a full-on desktop chip, it wasn't quite able to really set itself apart from the dedicated RTX 5070s in both laptops. So I was already pretty close to giving up, but I also got my hands on this absolute beauty here, the white ThinkPad X9 14 running on Intel's Lunar Lake platform. And together with the super compact 14-incher, I gave the eGPU another try, and I'm pretty glad I did. Since, yes, Lunar Lake isn't doing too bad when it comes to overall GPU performance, especially considering how thin and compact the ThinkPad is, but as soon as you really want to do something, the built-in 140W starts to struggle pretty quickly. So why not try the external solution? And again, for the price, you will have a hard time finding something similarly powerful. The overall setup is a great fit as well, since the X9 isn't offering a lot to write home about when it comes to its port selection. So with just one cable, the Aorus AI box does not only charge the ThinkPad, but also connects to our 27-inch QHD OLED from the folks at Evnia, which I used for my testing, and also to a full set of peripherals and everything else you would need once things get a bit more advanced, like our external SSDs for our video production, for example. So all in all, the Enclosure offers two USB-A 3.2 Gen 2s and a single USB-C 3.2 Gen 1 on the front and a pair of Thunderbolt 5s, one for your laptop and one for additional peripherals on the back, in addition to your regular display connections in the form of an HDMI and 3 display ports, as well as a network check. So yeah, this thing is a pretty solid centerpiece for your whole setup. On the software side, I had to install the Nvidia driver from Gigabyte's website before I was able to use the Nvidia app to update to the most recent one. But apart from that, everything went pretty smoothly when it comes to the overall software experience. But what about performance? And just as a little reminder, Lunar Lake offers just 8 CPU cores, so right away this might be quite the bottleneck for the 180 watts RTX 5060 Ti that's in here. And yes, compared to our test bench and kicking things off in FireStrike, there is a significant performance delta. But to be honest, that is kind of expected, since we used a pretty beefy Ryzen 9800 X3D for our reference numbers, so yeah, that's that. Still, our setup here doesn't perform too badly and roughly lands somewhere in line with the Log 15 I mentioned earlier, and that one is more than $1,500 right now, just to put things into perspective. And comparing numbers to the integrated 140W, well, feels a little unfair, to be honest. In TimeSpy though, the difference is much smaller, and in general, the more we venture into GPU-bound territories, the closer our setup will perform in line with the test bench. And in Steel Nomad, for example, it's about on par, which is actually pretty damn impressive. But of course, synthetic benchmarks are just one part of the puzzle. So how are things looking out there in the real world? Well, in our reference titles, Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate, the lower CPU core count is definitely asking for a sacrifice. And we have to keep in mind that we are still running things with a super slim notebook here. That said, you do get properly enjoyable frame rates, and we are not just talking Full HD here, but the native QHD resolution of our Evnia OLED is definitely on the table as well. And keep in mind, we are dealing with an Nvidia GPU, so you are unlocking all the additional benefits and tuning potential with DLSS and MFG. And speaking of all that, I mentioned Assassin's Creed earlier, and while QHD is not quite in the 5060 Ti's ballpark, I was able to get things into easily playable territory in Full HD, with DLSS in quality and a combination of standard ray tracing with the very high preset, which netted us about 50-ish FPS. A solid base for a story game and a prime starting point for an additional boost with frame generation. Fortnite did run surprisingly well too, and in the game's performance mode with moderate settings, the ThinkPad eGPU combo got us nearly to 200 FPS with solid 1% lows, which are especially important for faster games to get a smooth experience. And despite the X9's slower CPU, things went well and without any hiccups. But that's gaming, so what about when you want to get some work done? Especially in creative applications, the GPU is getting more and more important, and having a look at Blender, well, the difference in render times compared to the integrated 140V in the X9 is pretty drastic. Our reference system is still faster, but you are definitely going from I can run Blender with the ThinkPad on its own to I can actually get some work done with our eGPU combo. Of course, I also took this setup for a spin for our video production workflows, and in Resolve with our Blackmagic files, render times once again improve quite a bit. But the real difference is in the timeline editing experience, which is arguably more important than just shaving off a few minutes when exporting a video you have been editing for hours. So yes, you can edit 4K videos with Lunar Lake on the 140V, but you would have to significantly reduce the playback resolution and still deal with regular loading times and dropped frames. Whereas the 5060 Ti manages smooth playback, especially thanks to the 16 gigs of frame buffer, which Resolve really likes. And since this one got the AI right at its product name, if you want to dabble in local models, for example in ComfyUI, you do not really have any other options but going Nvidia. And thanks once again to the 16 gigs of VRAM, in addition to the X9's pretty generous 32 gigs of system memory, things went quite well when I experimented with generating our very own desktop wallpapers with FLUX. If you are more into LLMs, I had a pretty good time in LM Studio and played around with it a little. And while we're at it, we would really like to get your opinion here, especially about the whole local AI topic. Is this something you guys are interested in when we are evaluating new laptops? And to what extent would you like us to implement such workloads into our testing? Please help us out and let us know below what you think about it and what you would like to see in future reviews. Alright, that would be our overall performance impression for what you can do with this particular setup, and as I already mentioned, the general day-to-day experience was pretty solid without any problems. And Aorus also did a great job with cooling, since even under load I was hardly able to hear this one, and the fans of the ThinkPad have been consistently noisier when running anything advanced. And while I'm generally quite skeptical towards eGPUs, if you own a laptop without a dedicated GPU with a USB-C 4 or Thunderbolt 4, then the Aorus AI box could be a great update without asking you to spend money on a completely new notebook. And since it's quite portable, it doesn't have to stay on your desk, and this could easily be a setup for a hotel room, on-site assignments, or when going on vacation. But please folks, let me know what you think. Would an eGPU for your super portable office or lifestyle notebook be an option for you? Sound off below. I cannot wait to read what you guys have to say. And that should already be it for today. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. Don't forget to leave a like and sub on your way out, and feel free to check out some of our other videos on the channel, for example about the Log 15 I mentioned earlier. My name is Alex, you have been absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.